Are you one of the many people suffering from a dog who cannot keep 4 paws on the ground? What if I told you that there are very simple and easy to follow strategies that could not only help you get your dog to stop jumping, but to create scenarios where your dog is calm and cool in many different environments and able to make better choices all on their own? The very first step is diagnosing the problem. So determine why your dog is jumping. Are they trying to say hello? Are they asking for more information? Is it a release of nervous energy or maybe too much energy? Does your dog need a little more exercise? Is it a way to ask for space? Some dogs, believe it or not, actually jump because they want you to go away or they are uncomfortable with you being in their space. Sometimes it's to communicate uncertainty, to request attention, or to communicate needs like having to go to the bathroom or wanting to move on to a different area. So basically, dogs jump because it gets them something that they need or they want. Jumping makes things happen. So you could be giving the dog attention and not even intentionally doing so, just yelling, "No, stop. Knock it off, get down, off," and pushing the dog and pulling the dog and trying to correct the dog, making eye contact and firmly wagging your finger are all things that are still attention. So this brings us to step 3, cutting off reinforcement. So this means that from now on, jumping does not pay. We don't play with jumping dogs. We don't feed jumping dogs. We don't go through the door with jumping dogs. Moving forward, the only reinforcement that your dog should get is when all 4 paws are on the ground. Dogs really just need to make the connection that jumping up makes people go away. It makes the fun stop, and the party's basically over. If your dog does jump, make sure you turn your back, walk away, go into another room, ignore the dog, do not give the dog attention. Redirect the dog onto an approved activity after they have settled. But this in itself is not a fix. This does not solve jumping. To really, truly get to the root of the problem, you have to have a proactive approach. And to be proactive, we have to have intelligent management protocols in place. So what exactly do I mean by that? So management protocols are anything that prevent the behavior from being able to occur. So they stop the dog from being able to rehearse the behavior. For example, you don't want your dog to walk out into oncoming traffic, so when you walk your dog by the road, they are usually on leash if you are a responsible pet parent. So leashes can be used for intelligent management, and they can be used for jumpers as well. Having your jumping dog on leash, even whenever you're in the house, can give you the control that you need to make sure that they do not get reinforcement for the jumping. So with a little strategy and consistency, having your dog on leash when guests arrive would allow you to work with them with some food or some toys and be able to get your dog a little calmer before they actually interact with your guests. An even easier approach is teaching the dog that it is way more fun to be on the ground. That was a good one. This is a great example of intelligent management and making the right choice basically the only choice. The person that she is greeting here is behind a barrier. So she's able to go up and interact by doing the hand target that we have been working on, and there's no possible way she can get away with jumping. Next on the list of things to do is establish a repertoire of successful behaviors that your dog can pick from. Quite possibly one of the most useful skills to teach your dog is the hand target. It's quite simple. You allow your dog to come up to your empty hand and touch it with their nose. You say your marker word, which I am using, yes, and then toss a treat onto the ground. I especially like to toss treats for jumping dogs, so it makes the ground more reinforcing. Okay, go ahead and put your hand out. Yes! Good. We'll do a few repetitions of that. Once you find a successful formula, in this case, we are using a hand target with this black lab, and she loves it. So what you want to do is you want to practice it and repeat it so that it becomes a familiar pattern. And once the dog learns this, you're going to practice it in a lot of different environments, with different people, and with different things happening. And then what's going to happen from there is your dog is going to know a foolproof formula for going up and greeting people. And this is whenever you can really lay on the reinforcement for making the right choice, which in this case is targeting the person's hand and coming right back to you. We call this a greet and retreat. In this next segment, you'll see I'm not necessarily cueing this dog to do something. I'm simply letting her try things, and then I'm marking using a clicker and rewarding her for the right choices, the things that I view to be acceptable. So here you can see that the dog comes rushing up, but then at the last minute decides to sit automatically on their own. This is a big opportunity to reward. But alas, Rome was not built in a day. And so we did get a little jump in there, but we collected ourselves and are back to sitting. But you will notice that I didn't reward the last sit because I did not want to create a behavior chain where we jump up and then we sit and we get a treat. So I moved and let her try again and then continue to reinforce for the appropriate responses. If you were to place a bet, what do you think is going to happen next? I think she's starting to get the hint. I would have bet that she was about to jump on me there too. I'm making myself very exciting and saying hello because a lot of times that is a big jumping trigger for dogs whenever they first see people and they give them that big exciting hi. Another great technique for jumpers is to teach them to hold something in their mouth when they say hello. This gives them something to focus on besides getting up in the person's face. Okay, you guys have your training plans. You know why it is that dogs jump and what we can do to prevent the jumping, or maybe even make other things more reinforcing than the jumping. So that means you're all set to get to work and make sure that your dogs do not jump. Am I right? Actually, there's one more thing, and it's actually the most important thing that you need to know about keeping dogs' forepaws on the ground. And that is that we have to be consistent. And so that means we have to be really careful about mixed messages. So mixed messages happen whether we want them to or not, because there's always going to be someone somewhere that just doesn't mind dogs jumping up or entices the dogs to jump up unintentionally or sometimes intentionally. If they do it intentionally, that's a problem. and you need to be very direct with whoever that is. But if it's unintentional, that's when it's kind of difficult, because you don't want to make the person feel bad, because a lot of people just want to see your dog. How many times do you hear, oh, I love dogs, it's okay, I don't mind that they jump, I'm a dog person, I'm a dog lover. And you're like, okay, I guess I'll let it happen. No, I mean, you still have to tell that person. You just have to be nice about it and say, I know you don't care, but I really, really want, I'm working really hard with a trainer, spending a lot of money and a lot of time making sure this dog doesn't jump, so please help me out a little bit here and give me some space. You know, and maybe that space is just until my dog settles, but maybe that space is that you just don't get to pet my dog. And it is okay to tell a person that they can't pet your dog because they're in training, you know, because sometimes removing the expectation of the dog getting to see every person that wants to see them is not only good for the people to learn some impulse control, but for the dog to learn that, you know, that we don't just rush up to everybody, we don't pull towards everybody on leash, and we certainly don't jump on everybody that we see. So teaching them to ignore people and to walk away is actually going to be more valuable if you have a jumping dog, or a dog with a jumping problem. So that is something that is really, really, I think, going to be very helpful for a lot of you, to say, well, I can just bypass that interaction until my dog learns to be calmer. And it'll help your dog be calmer if you start bypassing those types of interactions and just worry about the dog focusing on you and listening to you and interacting and engaging with you, instead of trying to always be all up in everybody's business, okay? So controlling a jumping dog is not about controlling the dog. It is about controlling their environment. Learn it, live it, love it, okay? Controlling their environment is what you have to be able to do. You have to be able to ask for space, communicate to the people around you. And your dog is gonna be like, well, look at you, okay. They're going to respond. They're gonna be like, wow, I don't need to do anything. She's controlling what's happening. She's in charge. And that's the real way you're a leader for your dog, by controlling their environment and making it safe for them, a place where they can safely learn to make the right choices. And that is the real way you show them who is in charge, not by punishing them, because dogs are set up for punishment quite a bit, and it's kind of unfair. You know, an example of that is when you have a small little tiny puppy and they're like 7 pounds, and it's like, oh, get all up in here, puppy, let me kiss you. And then the puppy's 75 pounds pretty soon because they grew and they're huge and crazy, and now it's a problem. Now it is an emergency, and now they're a bad dog, even though they were a fine dog when they were little and they were doing it and they were cute and they had puppy breath. That was cool, right? That's not fair. In that situation, we are setting our dogs up to fail, and it happens constantly. And it happens without our intention, of course. But it's something to be knowledgeable about, cognizant of, and it's something to be proactive about. When you have a puppy, make sure the same rules apply to that little puppy that will apply to them as an adult. That is very important. The other thing, too, another great way to not send mixed messages is to make sure the entire family or neighbors or daycare people, vets, groomers, anywhere the dog is spending time, please communicate to them what the rules are. Make sure nobody else is reinforcing the jumping in those types of situations, too. So once you do your job and communicate to those around you about the rules, and once you learn how to better control your environment and the dog is going to respond not only to the fact that they're not getting reinforced for the jumping, but the fact that you got it going on, that you know exactly how to keep everything under control around them. So why would they need to? Why would they need to do any of that? Like, you've got it all. Everything is happening with you. And so your dog's going to respond to that. They're going to respond to the fact that, man, like my mom, she's got it. She's got it all figured out. I just have to stick with her, and she's got all the answers. And so they don't really need to be worried about whatever else is going on around them, because you've got it locked down. All right? So it's up to you. All of the techniques that you have seen in this video have been taught with a very large emphasis on positive reinforcement. And what I mean by that is simply that we're teaching the dog what we want them to do instead of concentrating on what we're trying to stop from happening. And that can be a very, very great tool for everybody to use. But when is it time to finally think about using punishment? When should we be punishing our dogs for jumping? This is a behavior we don't want, and what is wrong with using punishment? And so to that, I would say that as a trainer who focuses on positive reinforcement, that I do sometimes use punishment. I do not, however, use any type of punishment that would cause pain, discomfort, or force the dog into situations that the dog does not want to be forced into. So no force, intimidation, or fear is used in any of our training plans or protocols. But punishment is something that is an important part of learning, and punishment happens whether we effectively employ punishment or not. Punishment is anything that causes a behavior to happen less. So an example of punishment that has been used in the video is when a dog jumps up, we turn our back, and that is called negative punishment. We're taking something away from the dog that the dog wants, which is to be all up over this, right? And we're taking that away in order to punish the behavior, in order to make the behavior happen less often. And so it's kind of a myth that positive reinforcement-based trainers don't use punishment, because it's kind of hard not to. I mean, it's not that that's our focus. It's not my focus to punish the dog. It's my focus to set the dog up in an intelligent and strategic way to make the right choices, so it feels like it's their own choice. Sometimes we do that with our spouses, just saying. Sometimes we tell them, like, do you want to go see this movie or this movie? And you want to go see both of them, right? So whatever they choose, it's right. And then there's nothing wrong with doing that with your dogs, okay? I'm just saying. Like, you could say you have this choice or this choice, and they're both choices I like. So which one would you like to pick? And it's an empowerment exercise. It teaches the dog to have higher confidence and boost their self-esteem a little bit. Ooh, I got to pick. I am empowered. And there's nothing wrong with that at all. So what I'm not cool with is, the hissing sprays, pss, 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 pss. The shock collars, the prong collars, the leash pops, the, just like the really heavy-handed stuff for jumping. Jumping is such an easy problem to fix for people that just want to learn how to do it and stick to it and be consistent, like we just talked about. The consistency is where everything falls apart and people can't make it work because they're not consistent, and that's not the dog's fault. But what I want you to hear is that these tools that you use to punish the dog may appear to work in the short term, but in the long term, you can actually create a superstitious response to visitors, guests, people on the street, other dogs, whatever it is that you're working on. You could accidentally create a superstition with your dog, or, more scientifically would be a negatively, a negative conditioned emotional response. And so what happens is the dog could start to learn, people coming to my door, I'm not cool with that, because it almost is always followed by some sort of correction or some sort of force or pressure that I'm not cool with. So I'm going to do my best to make sure those people stay away, and it could cause the dog to react in a either fearful way or an aggressive way. And you could even start to get the real fun stuff like submissive urination, where the dog pees on the floor when they see people to let them know that they mean no harm. So you could get a whole array of side effects from punishment, whereas these techniques that you saw in this video have no side effects. And so I think it's always better to set the dog up to succeed so that you can reinforce, rather than set them up to fail so that you can punish. And that's the difference between the way that I train and the way that some other people might train. And so it's definitely something that is worth looking into and researching more if you're curious about why we don't use punishment, or at least the physical kind, at least the painful kind. It's worth looking into. Google it. There's lots of articles on force-free training, you know, and just there's tons of stuff if you just look it up online, or maybe we'll have some more videos on it coming up. But it's definitely worth a look, because you don't want to use some of these outdated tools on your dogs that can cause some psychological damage, physical damage, emotional damage. Just everyone's gonna have all kind of baggage and damage, you know. It's not gonna get you where you wanna go with your dog, not if what you're seeking is a real, genuine relationship with your dog, built on communication and trust. All right. Well, good luck to everybody, and thank you for watching this video. And if you're interested for any more videos, we have a lot more in store for you about similar topics, similar issues that plague pet parents such as yourself or trainers such as yourself. So we would love to have you tune in.